Last time we spoke of space, breaking out of the Earth's atmosphere and chasing after some goal or purpose or truth or meaning, right? Which is the most energy consuming part of that journey of a spaceship leaving Earth? The liftoff, isn't it? No matter which planet you're going to, breaking free of your old attachments is going to be tough. Now, something interesting, because some of us are going to return home in a few weeks, go back to the old haunts. And another talk I gave at another rehab was that it's going to be difficult to break free of your old persons, peoples, places, and things. When you go back, you'll have to break free of many of those old person, places, peoples, and things. Isn't it? Because that's where the bad habits come back again. Isn't it? And you'll have to break free like the spaceship leaving the planet. And eventually you'll have to break out of this atmosphere, the stratosphere. And that's where, as much as you're at sea, and you cannot, Earth is just now a ball in the distance. Or imagine the early seafarers of the Netherlands leaving, isn't it? Right? Going to some distant lands. The toughest part is not when you, as much as it takes a bit of energy getting free off the shore, the most fearful part of the journey is when you cannot see the shore. The most fearful part of the journey of leaving planet Earth after the original adrenaline rush and getting out of the Earth's atmosphere is when the Earth is a ball in the distance and you cannot yet see your destination. And sometimes you're uncertain, unknown as to where you're going to. And that's why we struggle, because of that. Between leaving your departures lounge and landing in your arrivals, that's the most uncertain part of the journey, and can be quite tumultuous as well, given there may be a storm or some asteroid belt you have to go through, isn't it? But you just got to navigate through, because your biggest uncertainty you're going to face is when you're making that shift from those old haunts, old people, old places, old persons, old things, old triggers. And you're literally like in a no man's land, waiting to get to your final destination of new people, new places, new things. You understand? Finding that new land. Because when you get sight of it, when you get sight of the new land, when you get sight of the new planet, then that gravitational pull will pull you to it, because you recognize, hopefully, it's of a higher energy. Isn't it? So the journey forth originally is tough, but it will draw you to it. And you and I may not even be aware of what that is pulling you towards it, isn't it? Because how does it pull you towards it? You will encounter failures and obstacles and challenges that you have to float around to get to your new space, new purpose, new truth, isn't it? Because you have to discover something new. And as you move along, it pulls you along, right? But something very important, we can put the word universe here. Your purpose is not selfish. If it's truly authentic, in alignment with who you are, and fundamentally in keeping with the absolute truth or meaning, it is absolutely selfless, because that's what you're doing. You're creating a higher energy. You are giving. By default then, let me use the purple, is that the universe then is also pulling those who are going in the same direction as you towards it. For every step they take, bang, this happens. But fundamental to your life, this is very important, is that your first love is not the person. Your first love is the goal, your truth, your purpose in life. When you wake up in the morning every single day, as much as you may think of your partner, your spouse, your husband, your wife, the fundamental reason you're facing up to is the fact that you are living. Your truth, your purpose, your meaning in life is to be your first love and your primary relationship. Because this truly then, this gives you reason to live. As much as there's a song, "You Give Me Reason to Live," I'm not sure most of us are saying that at age 50, 60, 70, to your partner. You told me, I give you reason to live, why are you not living? Isn't it? Because it's about that being, that keeps you alive. That's the primary relationship and first love. by default, your partner turns into a secondary relationship, however, defined by your primary purpose, your truth, your meaning, your love in your life. So what's fascinating, if you look at it, love is not when you looked into each other's eyes, isn't it? Whichever song that is. Love is when you both looked in the same direction. Your life is about figuring out your direction, your purpose, your truth. Part of the journey of being in foundation is figuring out your journey, your purpose, your truth, your meaning. Yes, they will be your partner on your journey, but they're not the end all and be all of your journey. You cannot make them the destination of your journey. Because then what you're doing is you're putting pressure on your partner as much as then they put pressure on you. You need to evolve past that partner. And one of the questions was asked is that they expect you to go back to your old habits, activities, and will kind of try and fit you into that mold. But if you have something to look forward towards, that purpose or truth, you will transcend, you will break the barriers that hold you back. And you allow them to see them as they wish to see you, because that's their own journey. Because all of us want to be defined in a particular way, or our parents will choose to define us as you, that little boy or little girl that was walking around and I had to help you when you fell over. Isn't it? And now the idea is to get up and define yourself by something better. But the whole thing is to define that purpose and truth, and you define yourself by that. And what you're doing, a true purpose, a true goal, a true vision is infinite and eternal. What do I mean by that? Practically, a goal that is infinite, a purpose that is eternal will be that we will never achieve it. You'll achieve some level of it. You'll achieve a higher energy, but you'll never completely achieve it. You understand? So if your goal is to be the best footballer in the world, great. You could get to be the best footballer, but there's still better levels of football you can play, I'm sure. Isn't it? As much as you endeavor towards freedom, there's still greater degrees of freedom. If you want to give the world love, there's still higher, unconditional, infinite love you can give. Does that resonate? There's still always more to your goal, purpose, your dream. As big as you and I dream, the universe has far more powerful dream in store. You understand? As much as you have achieved a level. So what's fascinating, on your dying day, on your last days, there will still be 1,000 worlds to conquer. But what that does is instills you with energy to live and nourishes you to go on forward, looking forward all the time. And yes, others will endeavor to define you and limit you to something small. Because why we do that? Because I need to understand you in some context to allow me to get my mind around this world, isn't it? So we sometimes take a few qualities and a few characteristics and say, this is who you are. Because if you try and do something crazy, my mind can't comprehend it. Because what is the job of the mind? The job of the mind is to try and understand and make sense of this world so we can operate and maneuver ourselves in it. So what the mind does is dissects it, analyzes it, quantifies it, measures. Isn't it? And that's what we all do. But when you chase something bigger and more powerful, then what you've done is you set yourself free. As much as people will endeavor to hold you to those, because they will pull at you, the tugs of war, to try and reduce you to the world that they operate in. Isn't it? And because something is beyond us, then we have to criticize and judge it. Because we want to reduce it to who we are. And the mind's job, another interesting thing about the mind's job is to sustain and maintain its identity. And a huge part of sustaining and maintaining your identity is to be superior than any other entity. Supremacy. So it always wants to be one-upmanship, isn't it? All right? Like, I'm better than you. All right? We always do that. We condescend, we patronize, we judge, we criticize. You're not good enough. What we do is by pulling the person down, we hope we feel better about ourselves. It's human nature. That's what the mind's job is to do. However, when you break free, recognize that they will be small in the greater scheme of things. And when you, on that journey, when you kind of experience it, the idea is that purpose and truth and meaning and in that shift, fight for that goal, it changes you somewhat. And this is very important from a rehabilitation substance perspective. Because when you go out there into the world again, this experience must have shifted you enough that you cannot go back there again. And the way I likened it to is that perchance we're lucky enough to go off into space and you see the Earth through a window in the space capsule, and you see it without the lines that separate countries, and you see it as a beautiful ball in the blue, and you come back to it. You are changed, isn't it? How you view the world. And if you even read the stories of astronauts who've been into space, something shifts, isn't it? Now that you've been here, hopefully in a different environment, and you go back and you don't want to use because it's going back to that low levels of energy again. And what's going to happen is if you do relapse, you will feel even more frustrated and irritated because you recognize you've taken a dip down. You need to elevate and recognize that I want to make this worthwhile. But recognize as well, you may still be on the journey between one land mass and another in the middle of the ocean, lost. And sometimes the temptation is to go back to the old habits. Isn't it? Because that's the place you always know. But if you say, I will endeavor, I will continue chasing after what I know there's something more. And eventually when you reach it and you get there, how do you explain to someone, geez, I saw something that how do I describe it to you? It's going to be difficult to conceptualize and redefine, but you know that experience has changed you forever. And this is what you have to allow this experience to do. Go forth on a journey to some greater purpose, greater truth. And what this does, remember how you might have defined yourself right in the beginning of this journey or before you came to the clinic? Maybe you called yourself a substance user, an alcoholic, a drug addict, whatever it is. You don't allow that to be the end all and be all of who you are. You redefine yourself as something far, far, far more powerful. And as much as you might just touch it, but it's something that keeps you going. And then you look back, perchance, when you go back home and you see people who are still in this space, but you recognize you cannot go back.